Thank you for being here today. I'm Tina Hone, Chief for Community Engagement for Mayor Lori Lightfoot. This is the mayor's fourth budget and our administration's fourth budget engagement cycle. Over the course of these past 4 years, we've heard from thousands of community members, either in person, via Zoom, through surveys, by email, and even good old snail mail. We have tried different ways to engage, always looking for new ideas. And in fact, sometime this fall, I'm going to actually pull together a meeting with the folks who've walked up to me at these various events to say, we think you should do this, we think you should do this, so we're going to have a meeting, and I'm going to take down all your great ideas. I want to give you all a quick overview of what you can expect to see today. Some of you may realize this is not set up town hall way where we line up in chairs and come to the microphones and scream. That's not how we engage. We want to be sure we can share information with you so that we can cut through some of the clutter and noise and make sure what you have is the most accurate and up-to-date information. We also want you to be our thought partner. And that's why you're set up at round tables. At these tables, you've been randomly assigned, so if you came in with a group, you're not with your group. The idea is that you're talking to people who you may not know. And you're going through an exercise that helps you help us think through some of the challenges that we're facing. There will be city staff at each table. You'll notice there is a reserved chair at each table. I ask that you keep that chair open because folks will be circulating. We have commissioners here, we have members of our senior team here, and other folks will be joining us. You'll also see on your table, or you got them when you checked in, I believe, a packet. And that packet has all the information you're going to need to do the exercise. I see people walking in with them. So it's a multi-page packet. We will not be covering every topic of the budget. We'll be focusing on what we call sort of the big 5, 6. But they're important topics like public safety, youth programs, mental health, community development. And I believe you're divided into sections because you'll each cover all of the topics, but you'll be rotating through the topics. Third and finally, we do want to hear from you. There will be an open public comment period. It will be a public comment period, not a Q&A period. You'll have 90 seconds to say your piece. It will be recorded, and it will be captured in a report that we will be issuing at the end of this budget cycle that will include all of the information we've gathered from this engagement and the prior two. This is the last of our in-person engagements, but there will be other opportunities for input. After 90 seconds, the microphone's going to get cut off, and I'm going to say next. So I want us to have a clear understanding of that, and I'll repeat it right before budget begins. But get your thoughts into 90-second increments now so that we can not have to cut you off. We'll also be producing an FAQ, a frequently asked question document, again, to make sure that we will be answering questions that have come up not just in this engagement, but in the prior two, which are on the south side and the west side. And now it's my privilege to introduce one of the deans from Truman College. The city colleges of Chicago have been a wonderful partner to us throughout this process. Chancellor Salgado, one of my favorite people, has allowed us to go to multiple colleges, and all of them led by spectacular people. Today, the president of Truman couldn't be here, but we do have Holly Jay, one of the deans here today, and if Holly wanted to come up and offer remarks. And there you are.
Thank you so much. It's always tricky with glasses and a mask, I tell you. Good morning, everybody. My name is Holly J., and I have the honor of serving as the Dean of Education and Teacher Programs here at Truman College. On behalf of Truman's president, Dr. Sean Jackson, I welcome you to Truman College. We serve as the Center of Excellence in Education in Human and Natural Sciences. If this is your first time on Truman's campus or your 5th time, we invite you to learn more about the various programs that we offer at our desk, our table out in the lobby. It was funny driving down Lakeshore Drive this morning with my new Beyonce CD playing, sun shining. I knew today was going to be a good day. So I hope you all enjoy your time here. Have a wonderful Saturday. Enjoy your time on the campus and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the Beyonce thing, everybody's very excited about that. Me too, except I'm old. We're also sitting in the 46th Ward, which is represented by a wonderful alderman, James Kappelman, who is retiring. He doesn't know, but I've been planning to say this. He is one of the kindest members of City Council, and he is a true humanist who cares about everyone. And it's just been a privilege to get to know him ever so slightly, and I'm grateful you're here today.
I'm just delighted to be here, and I love Truman College. We have many bright beacons of light in the 46th Ward in Truman College. Dr. Jackson, I apologize for not wearing a bow tie, and his staff. They are just beyond wonderful. 10 years ago, this month, I took a month-long course at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. And there were legislators from all over the world that came to this, and we learned how to legislate. And one of the things that we learned is, because we sometimes think, I like independent legislators, those who vote no. Well, that was completely turned around. What we were told is a good legislator is one who knows how to negotiate to get to win-win solutions, which is pretty tough to do. This is a tough budget. COVID has kicked us in the behind, and we're still making our way out of it. So there are many things that we all want that's going to cost money, and there's many things that we need to do to raise that revenue to pay for it. I oftentimes look to Susie Park, the budget director, to give me guidance, because all the alders and city council, we are required, mandated, to act in a fiduciary manner. And that's pretty tough given our pension crisis, given the amount of homelessness we see in this city and across this country, given the need for affordable housing, given the need for public safety, given the need to address institutional racism, given the need to address poverty. All these things are weighing in on us. But I believe there is a solution. One of the things that I took away from the Harvard Kennedy School of Government is that legislators, we sometimes fall in two camps. Some of us do what is popular. We do what our constituents want, and that weighs heavily on us because we like getting reelected. And then some of us kind of lean more towards the camp of what is wise. And what I came away from that course is that there should be a tension where I listen very intently to my constituents, and at the same time, I help guide us in the direction of also looking at what is wise. And that's where I look at Susie Park, because her goal, her job is to help us do what is wise. And so this is important that we're all here. You are all going to help us make a budget that represents the desires of the community in a way that's also wise. So thank you so much, and please, please give us your voice. And I will say one other thing. Everyone has lots of ideas. Don't give your local alders your demands right during budget season. Would you please do that during the month of August and September? But if you wait until we are in City Council on a daily basis, that's probably too late. We want to hear your voice. Help us help you. Thank you.
Thank you. I also want to acknowledge another fabulous member of City Council, Chairman Ariel Roboras. There you are. Chairman Dow, who is our Budget Committee Chair, is not able to join us today, but she's been at all the other engagements, and so she's heard from many, many constituents. One final thing before I turn the podium over to my incredible colleague, the fabulous Susie Park, our budget director. It's very important that the process be respected. And so if you've been asked to sit at a table that's not the table that's with your group, because I'm looking at the sea of orange in the back, I need you guys sitting at tables that you've been assigned to. So is everybody, Chewy, Jesus, is everybody at the tables that they've been assigned to? If you have spots at your tables in the front, please raise your hand. The process requires for us not to sit with each other, but to be open-minded enough to sit with people you do not know so that you can engage in constructive conversation and dialogue. Nubia, I need Al Moki on deck moving people around. I need Bart, Jesus, please help us move people around. There's table 22 over here we can start filling up. Some of you all may have seen me in budget engagement. I can go on forever. Okay. All right. While my team is helping people get situated and at tables where they're not with their own colleagues and friends, I'm going to ask our budget director, Susie Park, to come to the stage.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. My name is Susie Park, and I serve as the budget director for the City of Chicago. Whether this is your first time with us or your fourth time participating in our annual budget engagement process, I'm happy that you are here with us today. This year, just like in past years, community engagement will help guide us as we continue to provide the services our residents need while keeping the city on a course towards a stable and sustainable financial future. Before we get started with our discussions today, I wanted to spend just a few minutes providing some background on the city's budget process. First, as a reminder, the city's budget does not include our sister agencies. We get this question often. And the city has 5 sister agencies, which you see listed here. The Chicago Public Schools, the Park District, the Chicago Transit Authority, the Housing Authority, as well as City Colleges of Chicago. Each of these agencies do have their own budgets and governing board that is separate and distinct from the city. Every year, we kick off the budget process in June with all of our departments where they begin developing their budget proposals for the following upcoming year. We also begin community engagement efforts like today to help shape the development of the budget. We publish the budget forecast, which is coming up in August, which projects our expended revenues and expenditures for the coming year, and then we start working collaboratively to balance our budget. In the fall, the mayor submits the proposed budget, which is called the budget recommendation, to the City Council, and the Committee on the Budget and Government Operations, which is led by Chairwoman Pat Dowell, holds budget hearings over multiple weeks with all of our departments to discuss the proposed budget. City Council must approve our budget by the end of the year, and then the final approved budget, called the Annual Appropriation Ordinance, goes into effect on January 1st. Last year, your feedback helped shape more than $1.9 billion in investments across multiple priority areas. What you see up here represents more than just numbers. They represent real lifelines, programming, resources, and yes, money that will reach all of our residents. As Alderman Kappelman so graciously put it, in order to ensure that we are able to continue addressing the priorities of all of our residents, we need to continue conversations like the ones we hope to have with all of you today. Your ideas and thoughts will continue to provide us valuable information as we develop the 2023 budget. Thank you for being part of this very important work. Next, you will hear from some of our city leaders who will provide an update on some of the key initiatives that we talked about last year that our residents told us were priorities.
Our work for 2023 really began last year. In December of 2021, we announced our largest ever funding round, $1 billion. It's the most we have ever been able to do by far, almost double our last funding round. And it was made possible in part by the Chicago Recovery Plan. So with that, we were able to make commitments to 24 developments. That's about double anything we've done before. We are now moving those deals forward into communities across the city. One of the things I'm most excited about, of the 24 developments, 12 of them are near transit on the south and west side. That's never been done before. Coming up into 2023, we will be issuing another funding round. And we're so thrilled that the work that we've done on a racial equity impact assessment will impact yet again the developers we're working with. We want them to reflect the people that live in these communities and will reflect the ability for people to choose where they want to live across this entire city.
DFSS is dedicated to making homelessness rare, brief, and non-recurring. As we navigated the COVID-19 pandemic, the department prioritized keeping homeless individuals safe by opening up 9 alternate shelters, changing the configuration of our congregate shelters, and moving people to permanent housing as quickly as possible. Through rapid rehousing programming, DFSS helps thousands get off the streets and out of shelters into safe, stable homes. Mayor Lightfoot's focus on housing first solutions has helped DFSS increase the resources necessary to help individuals get housed and remain housed. In August 2020, we launched a rental assistance platform that allows us to connect with thousands of residents facing home housing insecurity. Since 2019, these investments have also increased our capacity to help individuals move from streets and into homes. Starting in 2020, DFSS began investing $35 million to launch the Expedited Housing Initiative, which brings housing services directly to individuals experiencing homelessness. Since 2020, over 1,764 households have moved into housing from shelter or encampments. The department will also invest in similar strategies that support other vulnerable populations in which housing becomes a key factor, including a new $4.5 million investment through the Chicago Recovery Plan dedicated to helping survivors of gender-based violence with housing and supportive services.
At the Chicago Department of Public Health, obviously the last few years have had a lot of attention on COVID, but also we have been working very hard to expand behavioral health resources for Chicagoans, regardless of income, ability to pay, insurance status, or immigration status. To give you one example, if you look at 2019, our whole budget for mental health services was $12 million a year. And we were serving about 3,600 Chicagoans with clinical-based mental health services. This year, our budget has increased from $12 million to $89 million, but more importantly, we've gone from serving 3,600 Chicagoans all the way up to this year, we're on track for 60,000 Chicagoans. And that's just for clinic-based mental health services. We've worked with partners, 50 of them across the city, and by the end of the year, we anticipate having at least one site in all of Chicago's 77 neighborhoods where people can get clinic-based care without barriers. But we've also been working to bring mental health services outside of the walls of clinic. This is an important and critical role for city government to play, whether that's embedding mental health professionals in the 911 response system for the first time, whether that's doing more outreach, bringing mental health and substance use care to individuals experiencing homelessness or on the CTA, whether that's working to make sure people who have more serious mental illness and have trouble keeping outpatient appointments can get care without needing to have appointments, whether that's linking children who have needs that can't be met in the school system to higher levels of care. We're growing and continuing to grow mental health, substance use, and violence prevention resources.
The 2023 budget is a tool for us to be able to implement that public health approach. It ensures that we have investments in infrastructure, expansions of access to mental health, but also continues to fund an extraordinary expansion of violence prevention programming started by the mayor to ensure that we have a civilian infrastructure in place preventing violence before it occurs. The CSEC's budget also includes new funding to implement innovative approaches to violence prevention. This includes funding marketing campaigns to address the need for more education around the root causes of violence and the approaches that are necessary, as we all have a role to play in violence prevention.
The Chicago Police Department is always working to strengthen public safety across every neighborhood. Over the past few years, we've been working to identify areas in which we can improve safety for everyone in Chicago. In addressing violent crime, we've been strategically deploying resources and focusing on what's driving crime in our city. This year, we identified the top 55 police beats where more than half of the city's violent crime is occurring. Through precision deployment, including personnel and resources, we've seen a consistent reduction in homicides and shootings within these areas. Public safety is equal parts law enforcement and community engagement. The Neighborhood Policing Initiative is a critical part of our community engagement strategy. Its funding will support additional resources so that we can expand from 10 districts to all 22 districts in the police department, which has played a critical role in engaging the public and building trust.
The City of Chicago recognizes that supporting our youth is the heart of our mission to equitably build a city where everyone can thrive. We have doubled down our investments in youth by expanding programs and launching new tools, including the recently expanded Chicago Youth Service Corps program, a now 40-week program and $29.2 million investment that empowers youth to give back to their communities, transforming them into the next generation of civic leaders. One Summer Chicago, a 6-week paid summer program that exposes almost 20,000 youth ages 14 to 24 to career opportunities in a range of high-growth industries, or the My Shy, My Future app that puts program information opportunities, resources, and events at our fingertips. We know that supporting our youth builds better and brighter futures for them and makes our city a better place for all of us.
We also saw a $16 million influx of funds from ARPA to help us again help the creative sector, both individuals and organizations, recover from the pandemic. That ARPA investment included one of our signature programs that we launched just recently called Together We Heal, which is a partnership with the Office of Racial Equity and Justice to fund projects in neighborhoods that are really at the intersection of arts and culture and community health and healing. So we're looking at how arts can really help to stabilize communities and help them grow and help them prosper.
And 2019 is when we started work on the strategic plan for transportation for the city. And that's our shared roadmap. That's safer streets, that's better infrastructure, that's better transit service, it's bus lanes, bike lanes, and so much more that make our neighborhoods vibrant and make it as easy as possible for you to move around the city. So we've done a lot since then. You saw our expanded outdoor dining, shared streets, open boulevards programs, these kinds of activations that really put our streets in service of what communities need and want, and also help local businesses to survive and thrive. Since 2020, we have resurfaced hundreds of miles of streets and alleys. And in fact, by the end of this year, we'll have delivered over 530 miles through the Chicago Works program. This includes over 120 miles of new bikeway infrastructure. This also includes an enormous amount of improvements towards safety, and that is a high priority for us. One of the things that is really important to us is making sure that our corridors in neighborhoods are those complete streets. That means all of those pieces of sidewalks and lighting and benches and plantings, all the things that make it great and vibrant and safe.
In 2022, through the Chicago Recovery Plan, Mayor Lightfoot announced $188 million in climate and environmental justice priorities. This is the single largest investment of its kind in the city's history. Through these investments, the city of Chicago will plant 75,000 trees over the next 5 years in communities that need them the most. We will get a jump start on electrifying the city's fleet, and will also advance more low-carbon mobility options and make it easier for Chicagoans to walk, bike, and take public transit. We will invest in new green infrastructure to prevent urban flooding and to help communities that are most vulnerable to climate change. And we will invest in new environmental justice initiatives for communities that have long shouldered the burden of environmental harm.
Here in Chicago, thanks to Mayor Lightfoot's leadership, we are deeply focused on equitable economic development and even more focused on making sure that that economic development and our recovery coming out of COVID happens in the right places all throughout Chicago. Another example of our focus on equitable economic development is the Chicago Recovery Plan. Now, this was a over $1.2 billion economic program that was backed both with funds from the Biden administration, but also Mayor Lightfoot matched that funding with the first ever economic development bond in the city's history. Some of the programs are our Corridor Ambassador program, where across 12 neighborhoods in the city, we have 100 people who are on the main commercial retail strips greeting people as they shop. It's creating jobs, it's helping create a safer city, and it's creating opportunity for so many residents. Another great example is our community development grants. Well over $100 million is going to support economic development projects throughout the city. And these are catalytic projects that really can help create more amenities in your neighborhood. So moving forward, why is this budget so important? This budget is going to double down on Mayor Lightfoot's commitment to equitable economic recovery and focus on economic development in the communities that need it the most.
Okay, I hope the video gave you a little bit of background as we move into the roundtable portion of our discussion today. This year, similar to last year, we have partnered with UIC's Great City Institute to help us continue and gather our community engagement could collect your feedback today, as we hope to publish a report out of our engagement efforts along with our 2023 budget. And with that, I'd like to introduce Adam Slade, Research Specialist from the Great Cities Institute, to help take us through our roundtable activity for today.
Thank you, Budget Director Park. Are we all ready to talk about the budget? Yeah? I hope so. I am honored to be here at Truman College. My dad actually went here when I was a young child to become a teacher, so it's always good to be back on familiar territory. As Budget Director Park discussed, this engagement builds upon last year's efforts. The results of last year's engagement were used to develop the responsive initiatives, which are community-informed budget priorities, such as expanding services to persons experiencing or at risk of homelessness. We're going to go a little deeper this year. Under each responsive initiative, there are several programs and services being implemented by the city. For example, permanent supportive housing development, homeless shelter renovations, and behavioral services are just some of the programs and services that support that responsive initiative. And so we want your feedback on those programs and services directly as best as you can give them. This year, we hope to continue the meaningful conversation we started last year, and city departments are here to update us on progress they see on the ground and are circling back with community to get further feedback. So it's an iterative, continuing process. You've just heard some of the highlights that the city highlighted in the video, and there are also detailed information in your packets that are in front of you. With this information at your fingers, we are asking you to provide additional feedback to inform the 2023 responsive initiatives. Each packet that you received has two major elements to them. They have 4 individual forms and 4 program spreadsheets. The program spreadsheets give you the text with the progress that the city has made over the last 4 years and since the last budget. And those individual sheets are the sheets that UIC will take back to do the analysis and to write the report for the city, which will help them with their budget decision making. The Great Cities Institute team will then analyze all of this information and the conversations from the notes at your table, and we will guide the city in part of the budget process. The 4 topic areas are as follows. Affordable housing and service to persons experiencing or at risk of homelessness are in green. Community safety and youth services are in blue. Public health and mental health services are in gray. And neighborhood and community development and arts and culture are in yellow. So if you have a real interest, that's the color scheme that we're going with, and you can go to that specific discussion grouping. We are collecting the individual forms with each individual topic area to collect feedback on programs and services, but also for new ideas. So if you don't see your ideas reflected in the programs and services, please write them down on those individual forms, and we will write them in the report for you all. This is how we elevate community voice to the city. For anyone participating at home, the video, spreadsheets, and online survey are identical to these forms, and you can complete them and log into the city's Office and Budget Management website for all of those materials. The rest of the event today will be organized as follows. First, we will give you a few minutes to review all of that information in your packet. And second, the majority of the time today will be in our small group discussions. Each table will have 4 15-minute conversations with department leaders that are already around at your table. There will be 1 conversation per topic area. City staff will rotate to each table after 15 minutes is up. And your table may begin with any one of the topic areas based on the city staff that are at your tables. And at the end of each 15-minute conversation, new department leaders will rotate, so residents can stay where they are, and city staff will come to you. We are asking that at each participant table, someone volunteer to take notes, and those notes will be given to the department leaders when they rotate so they can share that feedback with the next table that they are a part of. And the notes will also be used in the report that the Great Cities Institute will write. Finally, after the 4 conversations are complete, we will have open public comment, and we have the 2 microphones here that you can all speak with city leaders directly after the engagement is done. So thank you very much for your participation and willingness to share your thoughts with the city. We're going to get started right now. So go ahead. You'll have 5 minutes to look at the materials that are in your packets so that you can get a little bit of background as to the progress that the city has made so far. Thank you very much.
Okay, we have about 7 minutes left on that last project. I think I'm going to add a few minutes, so make it 10 minutes for me. We're going to give you a few more minutes because I think it was a little loud and you might not have been able to talk. Okay, so I think there are about 30 of our community members left. And we appreciate your patience and your participation in the process. I am asking actually our Commissioner for Family Services to come up and to explain the types of investments we've actually made in helping those who are home insecure secure housing.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brandy Kanazi, and I am the Commissioner for the Chicago Department of Family and Support Services. I'm going to talk a little bit about the work that we do at DFSS. Our work ranges from birth to the senior years, and we support a variety of programs, including youth, early learning, and homeless programming. I'm going to focus specifically on homeless programming this morning. So the first thing is that we support about 50 shelters across the city on the south, west, and north sides, and they support about 3,000 shelter beds across the city. This year, we have $20 million through our Chicago Recovery Plan, and that's really to support shelter investment and infrastructure. Typically, our dollars from HUD and our other grants do not support shelter infrastructure. And so our nonprofit agencies that run this, their shelters, they really have to work on fundraising. This year, we're going to be releasing an RFP within the next quarter to really help agencies support shelter infrastructure. And that could be from lessons we've learned during COVID, where our congregate spacings where people sleep in open rooms, head to toe, about 2 feet apart, we learned that we have to space people out, and that really having individual rooms with individual bathrooms is the best way to prevent communicable diseases. And so shelters will be able to really put forward plans to help with accessibility, widening doorways, making individual rooms, as well as support their infrastructure for heating, cooling, and roofing. And so that's just really a great investment we're proud of. The second thing is around rapid rehousing. In 2020, we received $35 million in CARES funding to support really that transition to move people out of shelters and into their own homes. The thing that we know is that people thrived and they were able to stay safe when they did that. So far with our rapid rehousing program that supports individuals with a year to 2 years subsidy where their rent is paid, we've supported 1,766 individuals. By September, we're going to have over 1,800 people housed. In this year's budget, we have an additional $20 million to support rapid rehousing, and so that's going to help us maintain thousands more from becoming homeless. The other thing that I want to just really call out is that first way to end homelessness is to prevent someone from becoming homeless. So through our rental assistance program, we've helped over 2,000 households maintain and remain in their homes through rental assistance, and that's anywhere from 2 to 12 months rental assistance support. We're doing a lot of partnership with the Department of Housing. And so last week we did our public plan for $71 million in home funding. And that's really out for public comment, and that will be approved by HUD. But one of the things we're going to do in partnership with DOH, and this is really about collaboration, is support over 220 permanent supportive housing units. And so that's going to support people who are homeless, right, as well as those who are doubled up. We know that our funding doesn't always support those populations, as well as those who are returning residents and gender-based violence victims. Other things that we're going to continue to support at DFSS are supportive services. We know that housing first is important, but once you're housed, we've got to make sure that you stay there. So all of those wraparound supports and helping people get jobs, their mental health. And so there's just a lot of work DFSS is doing across departments with our partners at CDPH, DOH, Streets and Sand. So here to answer questions, and I've got a staff member here as well. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Brian Essenberg. I'm the Managing Deputy Commissioner for the Department of Housing here on behalf of Commissioner Navarra, and I appreciate the Mayor also for this opportunity. I really just want to stress and highlight the phenomenal opportunity we've had around homelessness in the Department of Housing. In some sense, we've always been focused on multifamily housing and permanent housing. And under this administration, under this budget, we've been very fortunate through the use of bond proceeds to match the federal resources that we're thinking about and actually building out a whole line of business for homelessness within the department. And what that's shown up and means is we're focusing on building permanent supportive housing so it doesn't compete with our multifamily developments, that it has its own focus. We're looking at doing a funding round next year that just specifically highlights that. And then to add to what the Commissioner said, as we build in that direction, we're really looking at innovative uses to bring together our different departments. So right now, we're looking for hotels and opportunities that we can use for non-congregate shelter uses that then will convert to permanent supportive housing and really continue to have that anchor of affordability over a very long term. So this moment in time is actually very exciting for me. I'm always looking for new resources, so to have this availability of resources, to focus on how to meet people where they're at and do homelessness, I couldn't be more happy about this process. So if you have any questions about what we're doing at the department, the way we're looking at SROs, the way we're looking at how do we keep people in their homes, I'm available and happy to talk to anybody. Brian Essenberg, thank you very much for your time.
All right, just to circle back with kind of everything you've heard today and the conversations, I did want to take a moment, and you saw my presentation at the beginning of this engagement, that, the investments we have made last year were historic and once in a generation. As the budget director, but I've also been a city employee for 15 years, this is funding, oh, thank you, Carrie Ann. Just a reminder, this is funding that we have not seen before. And under Mayor Lightfoot, starting with the 2020 budget, we have made investments in these major areas. And this last budget, thanks to all the information we've received from everyone here in our engagement and through all of the feedback we've received, these are numbers that we have never seen in the city. And I just want to really emphasize that. It's not, 5 million, it's not 10 million. We have, for affordable housing alone, $635 million. I mean, that is historic. That is money that we have never seen for housing in the city, definitely in my time and just across many budgets. For violence prevention, we had $135 million, again, for programs across the city. Homelessness, you just heard Commissioner Kanazi talking about all the work that we're doing, $202 million across all of our funds throughout the city. This is both federal grants. I mean, this, again, are investments that we have never seen at this level in the city. Youth services, $150 million. All the things that you heard in the video, the work we're doing with our young people. It is, again, once in a generation. It's something that, we're proud of these investments, and we know there's more work to do. That's really why we're here today, as we're starting, all the programs that you heard that we're doing. We really want to hear feedback about, what's working, what are different ways we can improve, and really what's important to our residents. So I do want to remind everyone about that as we, finish out this engagement today. So thank you.
And so I know that there are about 30 of you again who are here, and I want to be sure to introduce and allow you to hear some words from our Mayor, Lori Lightfoot.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking time to spend your Saturday with us and to learn more about how we've used precious tax dollars to make what I believe are catalytic investments all across our city in areas that you told us a year ago that were important to you. You told us that you wanted us to spend historic federal ARP dollars to make sure that we are making investments in things like affordable housing. And I think you heard earlier that as a result of the resources that were generated by the City Council, as well as dollars that we generated through a social impact bond, we made $1 billion investment in affordable housing. And to me, one of the most important things about that investment is not just the dollar amount, which is historic in its nature, but the fact that we are going to be taking the first concrete steps to break down housing segregation that has kept us from each other for way too long in the city. We made historic investments in mental health funding, another top priority that you identified for us a year ago as something that was absolutely essential. And I think you heard that we went from a city that was serving roughly about 2,500 people a year at its peak to now we're on track to serve 60,000 people this year alone. And we're doing that again in partnership with community-based providers that will, by the end of this year, be in all of our 77 neighborhoods. We've made investments in young people to support their families. We've made sure that, in particular, we're focusing on what we call those most at-risk, vulnerable youth who have not been engaged with school, bringing them back into school, making sure that we're providing them with cognitive behavioral therapy, making sure that we're giving them jobs to help support them and their families. These are the investments that you identified for us a year ago that we incorporated into our budget, and those investments continue for several years to come. Now, one thing I do want to caution, and then I'll turn the program back over. We have made significant strides in righting our fiscal ship. You know that the previous administrations had not placed as great of an emphasis on making sure that we were a prudent fiduciaries of your precious tax dollars. In simple words, that means that we weren't spending your money in the right way, so we wouldn't have to come back to you again and say, give us more. We've made sure that we have looked at structural solutions to solve our budget problems. Not one-time fixes, but structural solutions. And I don't know if you've heard yet from CFO Jenny Bennett, but she and her team, along with our budget director and our CFO, have been working hard to make sure that we have transparency, that we are using tax dollars effectively, and that we're meeting our financial obligations, in particular the pensions that are challenging every municipality across our state. We are doing very well, and you'll hear more about that in the next couple of weeks, about how we have helped manage your budget, your dollars well. So it's like a family and a checkbook. You can either just keep writing checks and not care about whether or not the budget, the balance is dwindling, or you can think about how do we make sure that we maximize the resources that we have to make sure that the family budget is strong and healthy, not just now, but in the years to come. And that's really what we've been doing from a financial standpoint with the city budget as well. We want to make sure it is stable, it is healthy for years to come, and that we are meeting our biggest challenge, which is our pension obligations. So there's more to come on that, more that you'll have an opportunity to engage with. But we appreciate you taking your time out of your Saturday morning, where you could be doing anything, to come, to listen, to be educated, but also, once again, importantly, to provide us with feedback on how we can better meet your needs. Coming out of this pandemic, we have a lot of challenges, but also coming out of this pandemic, we have a lot of opportunities. What the pandemic, many of the lessons that it has taught us is that we must see each other as neighbors. We must work together as neighbors. We have a real opportunity to reunite the city in a powerful way by coming together around things of a common purpose. We need to make sure that the recession is held at bay. that we are able to continue an equitable transformation of our economic future, and we are well on our way. 2021, we had probably the strongest economic year of any year in recent memory in our city. Our economy is booming. Companies are moving here. They're bringing jobs. You've heard just in the last couple of weeks, Kellogg, right? The company we all know as kids that produced the cereal that we ate in the morning. They're moving the lion's share of their business to Chicago. That's a big deal. Google just made an announcement this week that they're going to take over the Thompson Center, right, the State of Illinois building that's going to be completely refurbished, and they're going to bring 3,000 minimum new jobs, not relocating from elsewhere in Chicago or the surrounding area, but 3,000 new jobs to the city of Chicago. We have a real opportunity to make sure that our young people are part of the pipeline for these new jobs that are coming to Chicago. So we have a lot to be proud of as Chicagoans. We certainly have our challenges, but we have a lot to be optimistic about. And I'd be remiss if I also didn't say, on public safety, we've made remarkable strides this year. You're going to hear more about it on Monday when the superintendent and I are both going to be speaking. But I wanted you to know that because of your hard work, because of the working in community, where we focused on the 15 communities that have driven 50% of the violence, folks, we are down almost 16% year over year in homicides. We are down almost 20% year over year in shootings. That is remarkable progress. We are one of the only few cities in the country that has seen declines in homicides and shootings. Now, we're not resting on our laurels, and we all know that we have a lot more to do, and we have to make sure that everyone in every neighborhood feels safe. But I want you to know the strategies that you talked to us about, that you told us that you needed in your neighborhoods to feel safe, we are implementing those, and we are seeing the fruits of those labors. So the media sometimes will sensationalize the one thing, the two things that go wrong on any given day. But I want you to know that there's good news in every neighborhood in our city. It's not just because it's summertime and the sun is shining and the weather is warm. It's because we are coming together as a community in ways that we haven't before. We recognize the strength in unity. We recognize the power in us working together as neighbors. And I hope you see that and feel that in everything that we're doing as a city government. And I hope the question you ask yourself leaving here today is, how can I be part of that? What more can I do as a resident that loves the city to make sure that I am being part of the answer and the solution? So again, I want to thank you one and all for being here, for spending time, for caring about your neighborhood, but importantly, for caring about our beloved city of Chicago. Thank you.
So unfortunately, we lost a lot of our time and are not going to be able to have a public comment period today. I thank all of you for staying. I know that some of you had the public comment cards, which we will collect. Nubia will make sure that the public comment cards are collected. So anything that you wanted to say to the mayor and to our team, please write on those cards so that we can collect them. I promise you that all of your input will be captured as it was captured last year. And because of your hard work last year and because of what you're contributing this year, we know that what the decisions we make in this process will be the better for your input. So I thank you all for being here today. Thank you.